Finally, it's Monday, July 10th. Newest installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast coming at you. Want to talk some NBA. It's been a long time. Free agency has transpired. We haven't talked. Wemby has made his NBA or at least summer league debut. He's been shut down after 2 games. We'll talk about that a little bit. But more importantly, get to some NFL stuff, talk about what you want to talk about, and then we'll get out of here. So without any further ado, the 347th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 347th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. It's been a while since we've chopped it up. So the first thing I want to get to is a little bit of basketball talk, a little bit of the association. So free agency has come and gone. Most of the big things that I thought could happen didn't transpire or materialize. Most of the guys that were free agents stayed where they were for the most part. We really didn't see any major free agents change teams. We have seen some teams get busy in free agency and do, a lot of little things to try to help add to their roster. But for the most part, the big news out of free agency is Dame Lillard has finally requested a trade, but he really doesn't want to go anywhere but Miami. The Heat don't have anything that the Blazers want, so I don't know if he'll end up going anywhere when it's all said and done, because his agent has warned other teams like, hey, do not trade for Dame because you could be getting a disgruntled player. He really just wants to go to Miami. So if that's the case, the Heat are going to have to find a third party that's willing to come in and help. It could get tough because, again, there are so many other teams out there with more chips that have a lot more to offer than the Miami Heat do, but that's where Dame wants to go. So obviously that's a major storyline. Kyrie sticks with the Dallas Mavericks. So he signed a deal to stay in Dallas, so they don't have egg all over their face trading what they traded to get him and then have him leave, months later. So they're able to salvage their end of that trade. But for the most part, Draymond Green is back in Golden State. Did we ever think he was leaving? No, I didn't, at least. I mean, once they traded Jordan Poole, didn't you think that was their way of saying, hey, Draymond, come on back? So I just don't see anything really happening in the landscape of the NBA right now that screams, oh, my God. But what I will say is that me being a Grizzlies fan, a lot of you have asked, how did I feel about us trading away Tyus Jones? We talked about that on the podcast. But then after that, we went and we also signed Derrick Rose. I've been actually pretty pleased with our offseason to this point. I think even getting Josh Christopher from the Rockets is a move that I was really excited about. So I think we've actually had a really solid offseason. You can tell that the focus of the offseason for the Grizzlies has been all about mentoring Ja Morant, saving his career, because we don't have a championship hope, a prayer without Ja Morant. We could talk about, oh, you guys win games without Ja, you're better without Ja. Okay, yeah, whatever. You can sit there with that ridiculous narrative all you'd like. You got to have a top 10 player on your squad to have a chance to win an NBA championship. If you do not have one of those, then you don't have a chance. Okay. You have to have a top 10 player on your team. And then you probably need to have another player that is somewhere in the top 30 NBA players. And if you don't, you better have 2 guys that are in the top 50 or 60 in the NBA. complementing the top 10 player. So, and then a nice solid collection of guys around those 3 players. So I think they've done well. And Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose are going to be there to mentor Ja and maybe get him on the straight and narrow and help him resurrect his career. And I like what they've done. So, but the biggest topic of conversation right now outside of Dame Lillard being traded is Wemby, right? WembyMANIA. It's taking the NBA by storm. Literally, Vegas was sold out on Friday for his NBA or Summer League, rather, debut with the Spurs against the Hornets. And I was telling my wife this. She's a San Antonio Spurs fan. So naturally, she was, exhilarated when they won the lottery to get the number 1 overall pick. She already knew what they were going to spend it on. And she was excited to see Pop sign his extension. He's got new life now, because I think Pop was, 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door. They sucked. And if you couldn't throw Pop a lifeline, he was going to probably retire. But this has reinvigorated him. He's got a shot now with the star player, and you see what you can build around him. And I told my wife, I said, we're going to find out how mentally tough this kid is, because they've put so much pressure on him. And none of this is his doing. All he did was show up to hoop. But you've got people like Woj saying that he's the greatest NBA prospect in the history of the league, just completely forgetting about LeBron James and the hype that surrounded him. You've got so many people talking about this kid being a unicorn, as if we haven't seen Bol before, right? Like Wemby is Bol, but probably with a better set of skills. But it's Bol, right? How tall is Bol? 7'3", 7'4"? Like he's Bol, right? We've seen this before, and we were all like mesmerized by Bol. He gets to the league and he can barely get on the court. Now, I think Wemby's more skilled, and that's what separates him, because Bol was skilled too, but I think Wemby's a little bit more skilled. He's played up against grown men, and we'll see if all of that translates to the NBA game. Wemby has already said that the NBA game is much better than any competition he's faced in France. Duh, we already know that. But it's good to hear him acknowledge that. However, after his first game in the Summer League, people were shitting on him because, this is going to be the thing. And this is what I was telling my wife. We're going to find out how mentally tough Wemby is, because again, he hasn't done anything wrong, but the people building him up, putting all this hype around him, is going to cause other NBA players to come at him like it's their NBA Finals Game 7 every single night. Think about it in this context. If you're the number 1 player in the nation, let's say you're in high school, and you go to a camp, and you got all the top players in the nation at that camp, but you're the number 1 player in the nation. All right. All these publications have put you number 1 atop all of these players who think they're nice as hell, but you're the number 1 guy. Guess what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to destroy you at this camp. Oh, you the number 1 dude? Well, let me get my shit off on you so I can show them I'm better than you. You the number 1 dude? I'm about to give you this work. That's what everybody does to LeBron James's kids. That's what everybody did to Michael Jordan's kids. Oh, you Michael Jordan's son? Well, I'm about to give you this work then, since you Jordan's son, right? You about to get all this pub, and you about to get all this hype. Oh, I'm about to kill you real quick. That's what everybody's going to try to do to Wemby. Remember when Sean Bradley, a lot of y'all probably don't. Remember when Sean Bradley came into the league? He was so tall. Oh my God. He blocked all these shots in college. Oh my God. What did every NBA player want to do on Sean Bradley? Oh, I gotta yam on him. I gotta throw down on this clown on his head, right? That's a badge of honor. Gotta throw down on this clown. That's what everybody's gonna try to do to Wemby. Every opportunity that they get, they're jumping from the dotted line and they're gonna try to yam on Wemby. Every opportunity, they're going to try to take it to him. And he's a skinny, frail body kid. He's going to have to put some muscle on because people are going to use their body. They're going to throw their weight around on him. And I said it's the same thing LeBron James faced when he came into the league. The difference was LeBron James came into the NBA with a grown man's body already as a rookie. Okay? That's the biggest difference between Wemby and the hype he has and LeBron and the hype he came into the league with. Was LeBron had an NBA grown man body day one. Wemby is a toothpick. So NBA guys who are already grown ass men are going to come in and they're going to be physical with him. And it's going to be every single night, 82 games. He better be ready. And he's going to want to know, why are they so aggressive towards me? This has nothing about what everybody else says you are. So I got to prove to them he ain't shit. He ain't as good as they say he is. And look, game recognized game. If he's nice and he's able to, even if they shitting on him, they dunking on him, they bodying him up, but he keeps coming, he'll earn their respect. But if they start shitting on him and they start dunking on him and he gets discouraged, he's going to be one of the biggest busts in NBA history. And I don't see that happening. And he had a nice bounce back game the other night, double, put up big numbers, and it was a great response by him. And then the Spurs said, all right, enough. We don't need to see you anymore. We don't want you getting hurt. We don't want anybody else trying to shit on you. You're good. We've seen all we needed to see. Shut him down. And that's what you're supposed to do. Give a guy 2 or 3 games in the summer league, shut him down. It's done. So I think this first season for Wemby is all about establishing I ain't no bitch. Because they're going to, a wise man once said, bitch, my mama ain't no hoe. Bitch, my daddy ain't no hoe. Bitch, my sister ain't no hoe. Why you trying to play me like a hoe? If Wemby's not a hoe, he's got to go out there and show them night in, night out, I'm not that guy. Okay? It might be somebody else. I'm not him. All right? So he's going to get dunked on. They're going to try to big boy him and body him up. They're going to try to go at him, sauce him, and cross him. All of that shit is coming his way every single night. They got it circled on the calendar. We playing the Spurs tonight? Oh, yeah, I'm about to do Wemby in. That's you want to end up on SportsCenter? You want to end up on social media trending? Dunk on Wemby. That'll get you there faster than anything else in the league. Everybody, you could dunk on Rudy Gobert. You could dunk on Tripp. You can dunk on whoever you want. You know, dunk on Wemby, and I guarantee you trending on social media. That's what happened the other night when he got yammed on. That's what everybody's going to be looking to do to that kid. He just better be mentally prepared for what's coming his way. And if he is, he's got a chance to be truly special in this league. If not, he is going to be abused and he won't last long in the NBA. And there'll be a 30 for 30 about WembyMANIA and how it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get to the gym dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So I want to start with some quarterback talk. So remember, I've been talking to you about Matthew Stafford, and I said, man, I think Matthew Stafford is on his way out of the league. I didn't realize he had been in the league as long. I think Stafford was the 2009 draft. I didn't realize, I think this is year 15 for Matthew Stafford, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't realize it had been that long. But when you sit and think about it, yeah, that's about right. Anyway, he's dealt with a myriad of injuries throughout his career. You know, a lot of them in Detroit, concussions, neck, back, you name it. He's done it, shoulder. I think this last one was with his hand, and coupled with the concussion that, you know, pretty much saw him miss a huge chunk of last year with the Rams after winning the Super Bowl the year before that. So I've said we don't really know what we're going to get from the Rams. I feel like that whole roster has pretty much been gutted outside of Cooper Kupp. So I don't really expect much from the Rams. They traded away so many picks, specifically in the first 2 rounds of the draft, in future years, that there's really no hope in sight. But again, if you're a fan of an NFL team and your team pushes all of its chips to the middle of the table and you win that big pot, and then you don't win thereafter for a very long time, you'll take that. They pushed all their chips to the center of the table. Everybody anteed up. Everybody said, I see your, and they said, and I raise you, and everybody threw their chips in, and the Rams won the Super Bowl. You might not be shit for the next decade, which the Rams probably won't be, but guess what? We can always talk about 2021. If you're a Rams fan, we always got 2021, right? Most organizations and fans of those organizations would kill for a chip. I don't really give a shit what you got to do to get it. Just get it. That's what the Rams kind of are. And then there was a report that the Rams were trying to move Matthew Stafford this offseason, which tells you that they're 1 foot out the door. I also said to myself, if there's any validity to this, Sean McVay don't play, man. The minute he's used you up and he doesn't feel like you are of any value to him offensively at the quarterback position, he will turn on you like nobody's. But now, I don't think he's turned on Matthew Stafford. I just feel like they explored any options that were out there, because when you've given away as much as they've given away in the way of draft capital, you're looking for ways to recoup some of that. And Stafford would have been an easy, quick way to get you a first or a couple of seconds back, to get you right back into the mix here in the next 3 or 4 years, where you don't really have a first round pick to speak of. He would have recouped you one, but coming off of the injury, the amount of money that he's owed, I can't remember if he signed an extension soon as the trade happened from Detroit to LA, or if he signed an extension after they won the Super Bowl. Probably before all of that transpired, he signed the extension as soon as he got to LA. Whatever the case may be, they're in way too deep. There's too much money owed to Stafford. No one's taking on that contract with a guy in that, at that portion of his career, coming off of the injury that he just sustained. No one's giving you anything for Matthew Stafford. So they had to eat that. But they were shopping him around. They were listening. That's interesting. It really is. Because 2 years ago, Matthew Stafford was a hot commodity out here in these streets, and the Rams ended up landing him. On the flip side, you've got Josh Jacobs, and I told you guys this. I told you guys this a month ago. I said, of all of these running backs, you got Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, that are all franchise tagged, right? I said the guy that has the least greatest chance of getting a long-term deal done, and I said this, I could see the situation turning ugly even is Josh Jacobs. I could see Saquon Barkley working out a long-term deal with the Giants, or I could just see the Giants not being able to get anything done. The deadline comes and passes, and they end up, he signs his 1 year, whatever, $1 million franchise tag, and he plays the string out, and then you go about it again next year. I can see that happening, but it won't be like this contentious, situation and relationship. He'll just be like, it's a business. They'll be like, it's a business, and we couldn't reach a number that makes sense. Saquon will be in his feelings, as he should be, and then you move on, right? Josh Jacobs was disrespected in a manner that I am surprised that he even wanted to be back in Vegas. He didn't have any control over them slapping the franchise tag on him. But he had said before the whole situation with Derek Carr transpired, he said he would love to be back in Vegas. I was like, the amount of disrespect that they showed him, they being the GM in Vegas and Josh McDaniels together, I was like, bro, how could you want to go back to that? How they treated you in the Hall of Fame game last year in the preseason? Are you kidding me? What you did for them all year long, and this is the thanks that you get, how they're treating you. Yeah, right. I don't want to be here. You shit on Derek Carr. You have no offensive direction. You're just doing random shit. I'm telling you, give it 4 months from now. 4 months. We sit here in July. So August, September, October. No, by November. But when is the trade deadline? Late October, right? So let's call it 3.5 months. 3.5 months from now, I guarantee you, you heard it here first. Devontae Adams is going to demand a trade. The Raiders are going to suck. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get hurt in week 2. They're going to be playing some bum-ass quarterback, getting their asses handed to him. Devontae Adams, it's one thing, and he hates losing, but it's one thing you losing, but you still putting up numbers, which he did last year. And his homeboy was there. So it made it a lot less, it made it more tolerable because your homeboy was there and you was going through it with your boy. He's not there anymore. This is a shit show. I want out. That's going to happen sometime in October. All right. If I'm Josh Jacobs, I don't want to be a part of this shit moving forward. Don't long-term me. I don't want it. As a matter of fact, if I were him, sign the franchise tag and play the one, because they're not going to franchise tag you again next year. If they want to, okay, fine. Be my guest. And sometimes the franchise tag is a hindrance. If you're a running back and you get franchise tagged multiple years in a row, you should be excited about that because you're not getting the amount of money in that 2-year span that you'll get. You're not getting that money in a long-term deal. Are you kidding me? I don't know what the franchise tag number is. Let's look it up right now. I don't actually know what that number is for the running back position. Franchise tag number for running back 2023. So the running back position is making $10 million, which is trash, honestly, because when you look at it, cornerbacks are making, quarterback franchise tag is $32 million. Linebacker, that went up exponentially. I think my man from Buffalo getting that big contract. And there was one more guy that got a nice contract. That shot that number up because now linebackers are second in the league. And I got to believe that that's because some of these edge rushers are phrased as outside linebackers. And so their number is a lot higher. That's why a lot of these dudes, like Micah Parsons, for instance, you want to know why Micah Parsons switched from linebacker to defensive end is because if you're termed as a linebacker, a lot of times they'll try to put you in the box. Oh, you're a linebacker, so this is how much you would get if he got to go to a franchise tag. Well, it actually would be advantageous to be a linebacker right now. But by the time you get there, more of these dudes get these big-ass deals at defensive end. It'll go back up higher than linebacker. But for this particular season, linebacker is actually second on the list at $20 million for the franchise tag. Wide receiver is at 19.7. DN is at 19.7 as well. D tackle is at 18.9, so almost 19. Offensive line, you're at 18.2. Corners are at 18.1, so forth and so forth. So running back is at, it's the lowest of all the positional groups, non-special team player-wise. So special teams players are at 5.3. So if you're a kicker, a place kicker, a punter, a holder, whatever, if you somehow end up in a franchise tag situation, your number would be 5.3. But running backs are at $10 million flat. I mean, that's a slap in the face, honestly. And so they could theoretically slap him with the franchise tag again next year. I stand corrected because it'd be what? I think the franchise tag would then go up to like 20, what is, I think it's 25%. It's 20 the first year of the top 5 positions, players at your position. And I think it's like goes up to 24% or whatever, and then it's like 32% that third year if you get. That's why nobody ever does it that third year because it's ridiculous. Whatever that number is, it's still not going to be super expensive for the running back position if they were to do it again next year. But if I'm Josh Jacobs, I don't even want to be back. It's a dysfunctional organization. You've treated me like shit since you've gotten here. Nah, I'm good. I want out. So yeah, I'll sign your little franchise tag this year. I play under it. I walk next year. I'm a ball out again this year. Get my long-term deal somewhere else next year. Let me go. We'll see how it works out. But he's prepared, and I think he's starting to read the writing on the wall. I think he's preparing to hold out for a little while. Now, again, he's no dummy. He'll sign that thing before we get to week 1. I can't see this actually being an in-season holdout. But I've already said this. You haven't signed anything. The Raiders are free to rescind the franchise tag and make you a free agent if they so choose. They're not going to do that, especially when you're a team like the Raiders that has, Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback and you need the aid of the run game. No way that you're doing that. But and he's free, just like they're free to rescind it. He's free to sign it whenever he's ready. And I think he's going to sign that thing after training camp is done, take that wear and tear off his body. After the preseason is done, you definitely not going to do that bullshit you did to me last year. Got me playing in the first 2-3 possessions of the Hall of Fame game. Man, I'll beat your ass for that shit. Hell wrong with you. And then I'll be ready. I'm going to stay in shape. I'm going to do the things I need to do. He'll be back, but Saquon not going to do that. Tony Pollard not going to do that. They'll sign their franchise tags before training camp starts with their respective teams. They'll be there. They might miss 1 or 2 training camp practices, making a statement. They're going to be there though. Like I think Josh is like, nah, F that. I see y'all for week 1. I don't blame him. So, that's an interesting situation. That's one of those ones we're going to continue to keep an eye on because I really think the Raiders are dysfunctional. They're giving me Patriots vibes from last year, except they don't have Bill Belichick to hold that shit together. Like, as dysfunctional as it was last year in New England on the offensive side of the football, they still were a game away from making the playoffs. The Raiders were one of the worst teams in football after the first 7 weeks before they got on this hot streak and won probably 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7 or whatever it was before flaming out at the end of the season. But they, at one point, 7-8 weeks into the season, they were at as high as the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. We were talking about, man, Derek Carr better start playing some ball. He might actually get them in a position to draft his replacement. So they were horrible. So the difference is if that shit blows up, there's no Bill Belichick to keep it together. It's just going to look like it did in Detroit under Matt Patricia. It's just going to look like it did at Notre Dame under Charlie Weiss. It's just going to look like shit. All the other disciples that have gone anywhere and tried to do it on their own and failed miserably, it's just going to look like that. Josh McDaniels in Denver the first time around, now he's going to look the same again, and he's going to have to come back just like all the old Belichick disciples always do. Man, I need a job, Bill. Come on back, man. Sorry it didn't work out. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is, man. If y'all out there and you want your comment read on the air, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. And I will read it if we have time, if time permits. We got a little bit of time today to play with, so I'll get to it. If not, then super chats are the way to ensure that your comment gets read. All right. So I do have one super chat, so we will get to that first, and then we'll get to any hashtags. If we don't have any hashtags, then we'll get to our final segment of the show. Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, love your collection of hats you sport. What's crazy is I had an even bigger collection of hats. And through all my moves, I was a moving fool, man. at one point I felt like I was moving like every year and a half. We was on the move again, and throughout all those moves, you lose things, in moves, and hats were some of the things that I lost. But also, I put my foot down, because when you're a kid, you get hats to look dope, right? So if you get a pair of kicks, you get a hat to match them, even if it's not your favorite team. As I got older, I was like, what do I look like wearing a Kansas City Royals hat? Because I got some true blue Jordans. Like, that's stupid. I'm not a Kansas City Royals fan. Then you got a Kansas City Royals fan rolling up on you. Yo, do you like the Royals? Hell no, I don't like the Royals. I realized that one time I had a Oakland Raiders hat on, and I was at the barbershop, and the dude was so excited. He thought he had just spotted a fellow Oakland Raiders fan. So he rolls up on me, and he's like, hey, man, that shit was crazy what happened last week, right? And see, he got it twisted, because I know football. So I knew what he was talking about, right? With the Raiders in that particular situation. So we were able to chop it up for a little bit. And he's like, man, it's so refreshing to run into another Raiders fan. And I was like, whoop. Let me stop you right there, bro. Don't let the hat fool you. I am not a Raiders fan. And his whole tenor changed after that, right? Like, it was, and I told him I was a fan of the Redskins and this, that, and the third. And, he wasn't standoffish, but he was kind of like off-put, like, how could you? And he was an older dude. So he immediately went to the 83 Super Bowl when they cooked us. And, we chopped it up for a little bit, but you could tell everything switched up when he found out I wasn't a Raiders fan. And at that moment, I realized, bro, you can't just be out here wearing anything and representing yourself in a manner that is not 100% factual. I'm a Braves fan, I'm a Grizzlies fan, and I'm a Redskins fan, or a Commanders fan now. And so you need to make sure people understand that. So when they see you and they see your hat or whatever, paraphernalia you decide to put on, you need to be able to say, yeah, that's my squad, right? You got to rep them. So I got rid of a lot of hats that I had, but all I have now left in my collection, I do have one Nationals hat, and I thought it was dope when I bought it, and it made a ton of sense when I bought it, and I wasn't in that frame of mind when I bought it, but it's a Redskins colored Nationals hat. So at that time, new era, what they were doing was they did a mashup between baseball teams and football teams. So they took the football team's color and they put it on the baseball team's logo, and it was dope. So for instance, they would take the Houston Texans color and colors and put it on a Houston Astros hat. They would take the Philadelphia Phillies and they would put that on an Eagles hat, with the Eagles logo. And so I got a Nationals logo, the curly W, and but it's in burgundy and gold. It's dope, but it's still a Nationals hat at the end of the day. See, my warped way of thinking, I'm thinking it's Redskins hat. No, dummy. It's a Nationals hat. It's just in Redskins colors. So I don't even wear that one anymore. I used to wear it. I don't wear that anymore because that's like blasphemy now. But anyway, I digress. So let's get to the comment section. I said I was going to get to the comment section, see what y'all talking about, if y'all talking about anything at all. HHC Lunar writes, I think Caleb Williams would be the NFL's version of WembyMANIA. So I don't know, because we've seen this with quarterback before. This is not uncommon. We did the same thing for Andrew Luck, suck for Luck. We did the same thing for Trevor Lawrence, tank for Trevor. And, they're doing another one for Caleb. So it's not that uncommon that we see this when we think we've got one of these generational quarterbacks. WembyMANIA was so different because that type of a body, like that doesn't grow on trees. He's a unicorn. He's truly a unicorn. You don't see that every day in that amount of skill, the ball handling, the shooting, the range, all of that, the shot blocking, the defense. Like, he even is a really good defender. You don't see that in that type of frame at that age, that's unheard of. So Caleb Williams is going to be, it's not like WembyMANIA is like nothing we've ever seen before other than LeBron James to me. Like those are the only two the NBA players coming into the league with this kind of hype that you can really compare it to me. Caleb Williams will be just like any other big time quarterback that we've been looking at for 2+ years. People were looking at Andrew Luck after his freshman year saying, hey, he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft. People looking at Trevor Lawrence won the national championship after his freshman year. Like, you can't really go anywhere else after that. And so he had to play 2 more years of college football, and there was no way he was going to be able to live up to the hype of what he did as a freshman. I think Tua is the same thing, or I might have it mixed up, but I think Tua was the same thing. Tua's first game he came in against was Georgia in the national championship game. And while he wasn't great, he throws the game-winning touchdown pass, and they win the game. And I mean, how do you upstage that? You can't. So I think there's a ton of hype surrounding Caleb Williams. But there's even been a conversation like, hey, is Drake May just as good? Which I don't think is the case, but there's no conversation. There was never a conversation about who was going #1. Remember when Justin Fields had that amazing game against Ohio State in the Orange Bowl? And everybody was like, yo, the Jaguars need to consider Justin Fields for the #1 pick. Like there was never a conversation about what the Spurs were doing with that #1. Are you kidding me? What? Yeah, right. The minute they won the lottery, it was a wrap. To a lesser degree, Zion came in with a lot of fanfare, but it wasn't on the level of LeBron or Wemby. So I don't think Caleb Williams will be as big as Wemby, but he'll be right on par with Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, I believe. I think it'll be closer to Andrew Luck though than Trevor, because Trevor, he was so good so early that the flaws started to show a little bit as he got deeper into his collegiate career, and by the time he left, he wasn't the same level of prospect, but no one was like doubting. Dude, 6'6", big arm, athletic, all that good. Like no one was doubting Trevor Lawrence, but you were a little bit less bold on him than you were and bullish on him than you were 2 years prior when he was a freshman. And you're like, man, this kid's gonna be special, and he's still gonna be special. And I think you saw a little bit of that last year. But anyway, I digress. Got another super chat. This is from Reedy Davis. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you, Reedy Davis, who writes, Lou, only 2 teams, hats, Commanders, Lakers, and Orioles. That's 3 teams. If the Commanders are one of the teams, it's 3 teams. But Lakers and Orioles as well. So it'd be weird how some of us become fans of teams, especially in the DMV. It's a little weird because for so long there wasn't a baseball team. So there are a lot of people who claim like DC, but are Orioles fans. But they got a reason. But it's still weird to me, because you would think they would be Nationals fans, but I digress. It's good that the Orioles are good now, man. I'm happy for a lot of these Orioles fans who have been suffering for quite some time. Let's see. HHC Lunar writes, with the running back market so low, I kind of think Zeke will be teamless in 2023. Don't see a team for him. The only way that transpires if no injuries happen in training camp, and running back injuries are going to take place. You're going to have 1 or 2 guys go down on teams, and they're going to be looking for a veteran, an established veteran to come in and help. I think he'll find a roster, but I would not be shocked. To your point, look, the running back market for veterans specifically has cooled significantly, and you understand why. I've always said the running back position is no country for old men, And so you get to a certain age, people see that the speed is gone, they see the effectiveness is gone. Zeke for me is no more than a short yardage, goal line type of back at this point of his career. I don't really see Zeke Elliott being a bell cow getting 2 carries a game anymore. So I think he'll end up on a squad somewhere. I just think it'll be in a reserve role. Is he willing to accept that is the question. And you'll be able to talk to him. You'll reach out to him and you say, hey, this is the role that we have carved out for you. But here's the thing about the running back position. You're one injury away from being thrusted into the starting role. So if you're Zeke, you shouldn't be tripping about being somebody's backup, because that's an ankle, that's a knee, that's a forearm, that's a pec, that's a shoulder. You're one play away from being the feature back again on a team. Somebody will come calling, I think. And remember, this time of the year, it's not imperative that the phone ring. If you're Zeke, if you're an NFL team, it doesn't make sense. That's why Dalvin Cook's like, I want to get something done. And same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. I want to get something done closer to camp. Like, I'm not really tripping right now. Deadline spur action. The closer you get to camp, the more desperate teams get, the better deal you find for yourself. Nobody's desperate right now because everybody's got all their players. An injury or two happens, and all of a sudden Zeke's phone is ringing off the hook, and now he's in demand. And now the price of the price, yesterday's price is gone. All right. The price of Zeke's, the price of Zeke's, what's the phrase I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for here? I can't think of what I wanted to say, but it's gone up, So as Fat Joe would say, yesterday's price is not today's price. Okay. The price is going up. All it takes is a couple of injuries for Zeke. So I could see him not having an NFL team. That's how it happens to running backs. You're on a roster one year, and the next year, nobody calls you. And just like that, your shit is over. It can happen real quick. I've seen it. Michael Burner, the Turner, was on top of the NFL world, it felt like. Gets this nice contract with the Falcons, playing really good ball for them. He fell off of the damn cliff. And just like that, his shit was over, bro. It doesn't take much in the NFL at running back. Got another super chat. This one is from Reedy Davis as well. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Reedy Davis writes, Lou, a South Carolina truck driver that came across you one day. Love your energy. Hey, I appreciate it, man. I really, truly do appreciate the support. Can't thank you enough. And I never know how everybody comes across my content, but however you find it, I appreciate you and the support. I always tell people it's like a job, supporting, because you got to give time and energy, and sometimes it's a lot, and you could be watching anything. There's so much content out here. You could be watching anything and y'all be chopping it up with me. So I really, truly do appreciate y'all for that in particular. HHC Lunar writes, when your season predictions dropping? I don't think I'm going to do one until I do it with the Super Friends. And I think I'm going to link with them sometime in August to do it. I think July is, if you do it in July, it's the same thing as doing it in May or June. We could have done it already, because I think what I wanted to do, because I remember, like, I know LB said I can do it right now. I'm ready, and I'm ready too. I know what I'm predicting for the Commanders, but I remember Law being really, adamant that he wanted to see what his team looked like first before he threw out predictions. So I just want to give everybody an opportunity to lay eyes on a squad. Because maybe there's a deficiency that you didn't know you had, or, you know, some things happen that might change your prediction from 12 to 10 or from 10 to 12, right? Who knows? So I'm just giving everybody a chance to lay eyes on their squad first, and then we'll link back up. It'll be early August, though. I won't let it drag out too long. Maybe after preseason game 1 or 2, we'll get in there. If it's 2, then you're sort of getting into the latter portion of August. But if it's 1, you're still in the early portion of August. So may let everybody get 1 preseason game under their belt. Then I'll try to get the fellas to link up, and we talk about what we think is going to happen with all the NFC East teams. So I don't want to do it before then. I don't want to spoil it before then. So that's when you'll get my predictions specifically for the Commanders, but everybody in the NFC East. So anyway, I digress. All right, let's get to, I don't see any more comments, no more hashtags, no more super chats. So let's get to my final segment of the show in garbage time. So I want to ask you guys a question. Leave it down in the comment section and we can go through a few of them. All right. I was thinking to myself, the Kings were such a surprise to everybody in the NBA last year. Everybody kept waiting for the bottom to fall out of that Kings season. Like, oh, this is cute. This is nice, but they can't sustain this. I remember talking to my buddy and he's like, I don't respect the Kings. They trash. They'll fall off eventually. And not only did they not fall off, they at one point were the second best team in the West. They were the number 2 seed, and we're talking probably with like 20 to 25 games left in the season. They were the 2 seed before finally relenting and ending up as the 4 seed in the West. It was a hell of a season. Their head coach, Mike Brown, deserved head coach of the year. They came out of nowhere. Nobody predict. I don't care who you are. You did not predict the Sacramento Kings to be a playoff team hosting a series in the first round. So with that said, with that in mind, who is the one team in the NFL this year that can surprise you, that came out of nowhere? I want you guys to leave it in the comment section. I'm going to see if anybody gives the same answer that I'm going to give, and then I will elaborate after we get some of these responses. But I've got a team in mind. I want to know, is there a team that last year was horrible or just wasn't very good, and no one's really expecting them to be any good this year, but you could see a path in which they find their way to the playoffs, and not only making it to the playoffs, but potentially doing a little bit of damage, maybe winning a game or so, similar to what the Giants did last year. Who in their right mind thought the Giants would be any good last year? I think the Giants are a perfect example of what I'm talking about right now. Does anybody have teams like that in mind where you see there's a potential for a team to jump up out of nowhere? I'll let some of these comments start to trickle in. But I think there are probably 2 or 3 teams that come to mind for me, but there's one in particular. And I might have even told you guys that one team already. So HHC Lunar writes, Panthers, easy schedule. Bryce Young should be good. Look at that defensive personnel. That is an excellent one right there, right off the bat from HHC Lunar. Shay Robinson says Falcons. I could definitely, especially if, and I've been shitting on Desmond Ridder. I think I shouldn't say this because I've said what I think he is already. I think he is an Alex Smith. I think he is a Ryan Tannehill. And those guys have proven in this league you can win 10, 11, even 12 games with Ryan Tannehill or Alex Smith at quarterback. You're just not going to win in the playoffs when it matters with a quarterback like that, who's more of a caretaker than a playmaker. The Falcons can win with Desmond Ridder. If he takes care of the ball, they run it like they did last. Remember, they added a guy that a lot of people think is this, generational back. I think he's really good. I don't think he's generational, but they added a hell of a running back, right? So if he adds to what they were already one of the best rushing offenses in football last year. Now, if he comes in and adds to that with them having some playmakers and they've added some guys at the receiver position finally, knowing that they've got one of the better young tight ends in football as a pass catcher on their team already, they could be dangerous. Look out for the Falcons potentially. That's not a bad one. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB rights. Definitely expecting the Browns. Watson returns. That's a good one. Not a lot of people are talking about the Cleveland Browns because they sucked last year. Watson didn't look all that great when he did return. So I think they're kind of being slept on. That's a really good one. I bleed Giants blue writes. Maybe the Texans. That's a hard one for me to buy. I still think that there's so many parts moving around. You got a brand new coach coming in, which that doesn't really mean anything. The Giants had a new coach last year, and you saw what happened there. But I just think it's too many moving parts in Houston. I don't think it's going to just collectively come together, in this season with a rookie quarterback, I may add. At least the Giants had an established veteran quarterback. I say all of that, and the team that I'm thinking about has all those same components that I'm talking about. So I'm making a case against the case that I'm about to make in the next 2 to 3 minutes here. So, I guess I can see the Texans. Anything can happen. I just don't think they have enough talent, though, especially at receiver. So, got a super chat here from Eli. Thank you for the super chat, Eli. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, call me crazy. Bears. Justin Fields takes that next step. Not sold on the Lions. Vikings are not going to repeat what they did last season, and Packers are errandless. That's a really good one, except a lot of people are already on that bandwagon, Eli. So I wouldn't call you crazy because there are a lot of people who think just like you do, Eli, that the Bears have a legitimate shot to do exactly what you just said. I don't think the Vikings are going to do what they did last year. Most people don't think. The Vikings had a mass exodus on defense. All of their veterans defensively are gone. Patrick Peterson gone. The linebacker, what is his name? Kendricks gone. I think they lost one of their defensive linemen. It's a mass exodus in Minnesota. And, it's a changing of the guard. They got a GM that's now going into year 2 who's putting his thumbprint on the roster. And so you're seeing a lot of turnover, which is what generally happens when you get a new GM, right? That's the standard operating procedure. But I don't know if Detroit's ready. Everybody's crowning Detroit. I don't think Green Bay is going to be all that great, although I will not put it past Jordan Love because I was such a massive Jordan Love fan when he was coming into the league. I just want to see what's going to happen. Bears are a team that I think enough people are betting on that I don't know if they would constitute being one of those surprise teams, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't think you're wrong about the Bears. That's a team you definitely have to look out for. HHC Lunar says, also got Avero, who had the Broncos defense playing top 5 last season. That always helps. It always helps when you got a defensive dude, because when you aren't as great of a football team, when you aren't as talented as the opposition, what's going to give you a chance every single week isn't your offense. It's your defense. When you're not a great football team, your defense is what's going to give you a chance every single week to steal a game that you have no business winning. So you hear this all the time. When the season starts, defenses are usually ahead of the offense. Why? Because it's not hard to play defense. You just line up and you play. Defenses are still trying to get everything down, timing, rhythm, all of that stuff. If you've got a new scheme, you're still trying to, get all acclimated and get everybody on the same page. Defenses are usually ahead of the offense. To me, if you're going to win and surprise people in the NFL, generally it's not going to be because you're dominant on offense. The Giants were far from dominant on offense last year. It was because they were a really solid defense, very efficient defensively, creating turnovers defensively, and they took care of the football on offense. They didn't beat themselves. And that's usually the blueprint for a team that's not as talented, but they come out of nowhere. So I could see that happening for sure. Joe Hewitt says, Cleveland Browns. Already been said, but that's a good one to piggyback off of the Browns. Mr. Pink said that earlier. That's a good one because I don't think enough people and look at their division. It's loaded. You know, you've got the Ravens, you've got the Steelers, who people think are on the cusp of turning the corner potentially with Kenny Pickett in year 2. And then obviously Cincinnati, who's been to the AFC Championship game each of the last 2 years. So that's a stacked division. No one's really talking about the Browns. I do think that's a really solid one. Got any grapes? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Got any grapes writes, what up, Lou? Off topic, but hindsight being what it is, do you think the Portis for Bailey trade? Do you do the Portis for Bailey trade? Keep in mind, without Portis in the ear of management, Taylor and Moss likely never hit Washington. I mean, those are great points that you make. But so what you also have to keep in mind is Champ Bailey did not want to be in Washington. And I'm not a fan of holding anybody hostage. I want guys that want, like, I'm a big believer in what Joe Gibbs believes in that regard is, if you don't want to be here, let me help you get out. I'll find somebody to take you off. If you don't want to be here, I'll make sure you're not here. I don't want to hold anybody hostage. So I probably would have traded him, but I'm not giving you a second round pick. If anything, you're giving me a pick. So I think in doing that, when we traded for Portis, he probably had, I want to say, one more year left on his rookie deal because he was a second round pick. In addition to the year we got him, he probably had one more year. So that made it enticing for Washington. And then Bailey was probably, if I had to guess, he was probably, you had to give him a deal immediately when we traded him. And maybe that was Denver's angle. We not only do we have to trade him to you, we're giving you a guy that rushed for over, 1,400 yards each of the last 2 years. But we got to pay this guy. Well, we had to pay Portis too, eventually. We're not going to trade you Champ Bailey and then just let Portis walk a season later. Yeah, right. I would have probably done the trade because Bailey didn't want to. If Bailey wanted to be in Washington, no, I don't do the trade. Simple. I don't do the trade. He doesn't want to be in Washington, then I don't want to keep you in Washington. I want people that want to be here. I would have done the trade, but I'm not giving them a second round pick too. That's not if that's what it would have taken to get the deal done, I would have picked up the phone and called somebody else. Because I should have been getting a second round pick in that deal. Not you. But you make some great points. You're not getting the trade for Santana Moss. You're definitely getting Kellen Winslow, who ended up being a really good NFL player, a solid one at least. It was after his career that he lost his damn mind, but he did some questionable shit post game, like I'm an effing soldier and all that stuff that he was doing, when he was in the locker room talking. But he was a solid NFL player on the field. He wouldn't have had the impact that Sean Taylor had. So to your point, I totally get that. Let's see. Humble King says the Broncos. And I like that one from HHC Lunar. He says, let's be honest, if it's going to be a team, it's going to be from the NFC. I think that's my mindset. And so with that in mind, my team is the Carolina Panthers. HHC Lunar got it right off the bat. It's the Panthers. I look at that division. It stinks. The only team that I think has a real shot at making noise in that division, like right out of the gate, is New Orleans. You got an established veteran quarterback. The only team in the division that really have that, the Bucs are probably going to have Baker Mayfield starting. So he will give them a veteran presence there. And they have the weapons offensively to be better. I just don't think they will be. You look at the Falcons. I'm not a big Desmond Ridder guy, but again, if that defense steps up, that defense wasn't very good last year. The defense steps up and they can run the shit out of the football, and Ridder does the thing that I think he's capable of doing, which is take care of the football, make timely plays and throws, and be that Alex Smith, Ryan Tannehill caretaker. Yeah, the Falcons could definitely be in that conversation, but that's a reach for me. That's a stretch because I don't love Desmond Ridder. I look at the Panthers and I say to myself, Frank Reich is an established NFL head coach. Like in the Texans case, we got a defensive coordinator coming over as a first-time head coach that we think has all the chops necessary to get it done, but we're not sure. We don't know what he's going to be as a head man. We know what he is as a defensive coordinator. Okay, and D'Amico Ryans. In Carolina, you got an established coach who's won in this league, has been to the playoffs multiple times in his career. You've got a organization with talent already there, right? I still think there's a lot of work to be done at the receiver position in particular, but they've done enough to surround him with some talent, all right? They've done enough to put some guys out there that he can get the football to. But more importantly, they got themselves a quarterback. They established the fact that they can run the football last year when they were running the shit down people's throats at the end of the season when they almost came back and made the playoffs. So they've invested in the offensive line over the last 2-3 years. So, that part of the team is somewhat built. So when you look at the Panthers and defensively, they're really solid. They're a really solid group. It just depends on who comes in there and how they coach up that side of the football. But they were a hard-nosed defense last year that kept them in some ball games. I could see the Panthers in a very bad division being the best of the worst division in football. And we'll see what that, because the worst division probably is going to be the AFC South. But we'll see. Could be the NFC South. One of the Souths are going to be the worst division in football. And I can see the Panthers being the best of the worst division in year one of Bryce Young. So, yeah, that's the team that I'm rolling with. I think it's the Carolina Panthers. Y'all came up with some great answers, though. Video channel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, been going down memory lane with your Reign of Terror series. Got me thinking ahead. What's worse, signing Hayesworth or trading for McNabb? Oh, without a doubt, it's signing Hayesworth. McNabb, you were just hoping that there was something left in the tank. Andy Reid wouldn't have traded him if there was something left, but you were hoping that there was something left. With Hayesworth, he tricked us. They fell for it, and it was embarrassing. It was downright embarrassing what he did in Washington. He stole money from us. The Eagles might have stole picks from us, but it wasn't their fault that McNabb didn't come in and play well. Hayesworth literally knew what he was doing. Hayesworth was the absolute worst by far and away. Not even close. Well, thank you for that super chat video channel. Got any grapes? Eli, Mr. Pink, Reedy Davis. Thank you all for the super chats. Thank everybody for your participation today. That's going to do it for the 347th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all. Next time, we'll be back on Wednesday with a brand new pod, all new topics to dig into. You guys have been awesome. I look forward to chopping it up with y'all. If you're a Washington fan, I got a video that I'm uploading. I'll probably have it to you in the next 30, 45 minutes. It should be done, but you'll have that in your lap here in a little bit. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're a music fan, check me out over on my other channel, MusicHead University, doing some fun things over there. Would love it if you came and checked out the kid and what we over there doing. If you like it, sub up and become a music head. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Louie T Network podcast. Y'all have a good one. God bless. Good night. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. Music Heads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.